is Mississippi Matters in partnership with the United Way of the Capital Area.
Hello, everyone. I'm Erin Pickens. Welcome to Mississippi Matters, a series of conversations to take an in-depth look at stories that are affecting our state. Whether it's political, cultural, social, or historical, we'll dive deep into the issues. In today's inaugural conversation, we're taking a look at the intense civil rights movement that we're seeing in our country right now, the continued call to make sure Black lives matter. Now, it all started a month ago. It was Memorial Day when George Floyd was killed. Cell phone video captured a Minneapolis police officer with his knee on Floyd's neck while he was on the ground handcuffed. For 8 minutes and 46 seconds, he pled with Officer Derek Chauvin, saying over and over that he could not breathe. His cries for help grew fainter. One of the last things he said was "Mama" before he lied there unconscious and eventually died. Chauvin and 3 other officers who stood by and watched George Floyd take his last breaths were all arrested. That sparked a movement that is still going on a month later. Now, the killing of George Floyd by police was not the first. There's also Breonna Taylor, who was shot to death by officers in Louisville, Kentucky. Officers who burst into her home on a drug raid, but no one in her home were the intended targets. There was most recently Rayshard Brooks, who was also killed by police in Atlanta. Officers were called to a Wendy's parking lot because he fell asleep in his car in the drive-through line. Minutes later, he was shot in the back and killed. Now, there have been marches, demonstrations, protests across the country, including right here in Mississippi. The movement even stretched overseas. Scores of people came together saying enough is enough. And that brings us to today, where the call for change and racial equality has reached new heights. Our guests today are Derek Johnson, the president and CEO of the NAACP, Dr. Ira Murray, the president and CEO of the United Way of the Capital Area, and Dr. Reverend Jason Coker with Cooperative Baptist Fellowship of Mississippi. Now, Dr. Murray, we want to start with you. We know that the NAACP and churches have been very involved with civil rights for decades, but many may not think of the United Way. Tell me about your involvement in this 2020 call for justice.
Well, thank you, Aaron. And first, I want to thank WAPT for sharing this platform for this very important conversation. United Ways across the country and United Way of the Capital Area have never really delved deeply into the issues of race equity in our communities. But this is a call to action. This is a time in our country's history where we're seeing a modern civil rights movement, and we're seeing issues that have plagued communities across our nation really start to come to the fore. And it's important for us as a United Way to really leverage our position in a community. We communicate and work with corporations and local businesses. We work with community-based organizations and nonprofits, foundations, health centers, just a variety of organizations and people in communities across sectors. And it's time to really bring all of those entities together in order to delve deeply and really address the systemic issues of racism that we see in central Mississippi and really beyond. And so we want to make sure that we are present, that we are relevant in this moment, but also that we are doing what we can to really address the issues that we're seeing in communities.
And you're right, it takes everyone coming together. Now, next we have Derek Johnson. Now, Mr. Johnson, since its inception over 100 years ago, the NAACP has been fighting for the rights of all people of color, fighting for justice as well. What is different about the movement today compared to the movement of the 1960s?
I think today, as you look at the protesters across the country, you see America, you see black, white, young, old, male, female. That's a lot different than what we seen in the 60s. Martin Luther King wrote a letter from the Birmingham jail, and he talked about the silence of those who proclaimed to have good morals and of good conscience, but yet they stood idly by and did nothing. We're seeing more people take to the streets and recognize that in order for this democracy truly live up to its promise, we can no longer allow for an unjust system, for an individual to be murdered in broad daylight with the police officer on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. That is unconscionable. It was gruesome. And as a result, many people have taken to the streets.
And with those protests, we see a lot of young people. Derek Johnson, talk about the millennials who have gotten involved in this movement and how they're able to push this forward.
Well, movements are successful based on intergenerational models. It's not one age classification. It's all who are involved. Movements are successful only when we can move from protest to the ballot box and from the ballot box to substantive change through public policy. The energy of today from our young people is excellent, and we need more of it. But that energy now must be directed to ensure that we turn out to vote and making sure that there is a value proposition that we're voting for. For far too long, particularly in this state of Mississippi, we've used race as a proxy for partisanship. Racism should not be a partisan question. It should be a question for humanity, that we no longer create a level of tribalism that we've done for far too long, not only in this country, but specifically in the state of Mississippi. It's time for us as a community to really recognize that all citizens should be treated with equal protection under the law, and human dignity should be a thing that's mandated, not something that's assumed based on one's racial classification.
Indeed, indeed. Inclusion, that is so important. Mr. Johnson, we'll come back to you in just a moment, but right now we want Reverend Coker to weigh in. Now, churches of all denominations have been involved in the fight for equality for decades. Tell me what you're seeing now and how churches can help more with this particular movement.
Well, we thank you for having me and inviting me to this conversation. It's an honor to be with you today. The religious community has a moral responsibility to human equality and justice. One of our famous passages says, "Let justice roll down like waters." And I think we're, especially in the white church, and this is where my context is, we are entering into those waters of justice. Some denominations have done that from the very beginning, but a lot of our white Baptists are just now making that kind of journey into justice work, racial justice and healing in particular. The Cooperative Baptist Fellowship in Mississippi has 4 main priorities from a public witness standpoint, and racial justice and healing is one of those priorities. Here in the state of Mississippi, it is a real fight every day for racial justice. And it's important for white people to be a part of that and to do our own work in it. For too long, I think even white people of goodwill who believe in justice have looked to their black sisters and brothers to educate them, which continues to put the burden of ending racism on the black community. Well, if the black community could have ended racism, they would have done it by now. And I think this is where people who are white need to stand up and take a role, not the leaders or the heroes, but take a role in ending racism in the United States of America. And if we can take those big steps here in Mississippi, I think it'll be a loud call to the rest of the country. If white residents of Mississippi are fighting racism and are anti-racist here, that is a bold call to the rest of the nation, and that is the kind of work that we are trying to be about here.
You know, so many times, Reverend Coker, we've heard people talk about Sunday morning being the most segregated time that we see because you have black churches and you have white churches. Talk about the importance of everyone coming together to not only worship, but to make movements like this move along.
Yeah, it's still the most segregated hour in America. I mean, you would be hard-pressed to find churches across the country that have true racial diversity within a worshiping congregation on Sunday morning. Those do happen, and those churches that have that are very intentional about it. And I think there are attempts at doing that within traditional congregations. But whether we're segregated on Sunday morning or not, we can certainly stand together arm in arm to fight for what's right. And this is a moral issue of the way human beings are treated who live and breathe in our country. And we absolutely have a moral obligation to care for our neighbor, to put our neighbor ahead of ourselves. And if we did that, especially if white Mississippians looked at their neighbors and said, I love you, you are as valuable as I am, and I'm going to put your needs before mine, Mississippi would look fundamentally different tomorrow. And all I'm saying is, if white Christians in Mississippi acted like Christians, our state would be different tomorrow. And that's always been true. But there is a deep connection within the culture of white Christianity in America that overlays Christianity with white superiority. And they call that Southern culture. And so getting into a place where you differentiate between Southern culture or white supremacy and Christian faith is a profound conversion experience. And that's the kind of conversion that we're trying to call for in the state of Mississippi.
All right, thank you so much, Reverend Coker. Now, when we return, we will continue our conversation about race, Mississippi, and America. We're going to touch on that hot button topic, Mississippi's state flag. Stay with us.